Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Live from the Chair with Nathan and Big Money Exchange, where inclusion matters. Today, this is our first of three. Yes, you heard me right, ladies and gentlemen. The first of three interviews today.
As long as a ref can count to three.
Our guest right tonight is Rick
Easley.
Easley.
Yeah.
Elzy.
E-L-S-E-Y. Pronounced like a Z.
Sorry, Elzy.
L-Z. Yeah.
Got it. From
Squared Circle
Pro.
Yeah, I'm
In
the
Lubbock,
booker for Squared Circle Pro out of Lubbock, Texas.
out of Lubbock, Texas. So with that, Nathan, if you can, take it away.
I can do
Don't
it.
really take it away.
Well, thank you for being here today. We'll get to the first question. Who were your wrestling heroes growing up?
Oh, well, I personally, growing up, I think the first wrestler that I really took to that I could call a hero was probably the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I was first exposed to wrestling in the late 70s. And of course, I live in Amarillo, Texas. My promotion is out of Lubbock. So this area is synonymous with the Funk family. West Texas, a huge hotbed for wrestling. So many wrestlers came out of this area: Dick Murdoch, Stan Hansen. We had the Von Erichs in Dallas. There's just so much in this area. And Dusty was one of those that he was so much larger than life. Seeing the people that I saw in Amarillo, Terry Funk's crazy, but at the same time, he just didn't have the jive and the swagger of an American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Dusty was completely unique to me as a child. And I really followed him. The only other names that I could really throw out there are the people that really got my attention. I was always a big fan of the monsters of wrestling. Back when you believed that Kamala was a cannibal from Africa, when you believed that Abdullah the Butcher was the madman from the Sudan, the Missing Link, the Great Kabuki, all those characters, those were the people that I really, really jived with. But yeah, so I'd say Dusty and the Monsters.
Very cool. Very cool. So you just admitted it yourself. Texas is a hotbed of wrestling. So with that being said.
Oh, absolutely.
So with that being said, who would you consider the four pillars of Texas wrestling?
The four pillars of Texas wrestling. Well, okay. Are you talking actually in ring, or are you including promoters, or just across the board?
Clarification, host. What do you want?
Just across the board.
Across the board.
Across the board. Okay. Four pillars of Texas wrestling. Dory Funk Sr., Fritz Von Erich, Paul Bosch, and Gary Hart, because I think he was the best booker ever.
Very cool.
That kind of feeds into my next question.
It's not your turn. It's not your turn.
Sorry, I forgot about Big Money. Those sunglasses threw me off.
Your forehead is a little bright, so.
Sorry, I forgot the polish today.
Yes, next time that'll cost you. I have a question for you, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Why haven't you booked Big Money Exchange?
I knew that was going to be the question.
I'll be very honest with you because up until this moment, I have never heard of you.
That hurt, but
Nope.
I accept that.
I will send you his Facebook, and you can send him your material. How about that, Big Money?
That sounds good.
All right, Mr. Noss. Now you may ask your question.
Well, thank you for the permission. Who are your top 5 bookers of all time?
Ooh.
Top 5 bookers of all time. Okay, Gary Hart,
Okay.
I'll say Eddie Graham because he directly influenced both Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan, who I would normally put on a list. But I'll say Eddie Graham, so that's 2. I'll go with Bill Dundee because he was responsible for booking the hottest period of Bill Watts's Mid-South. I will go with Paul Heyman because I believe that Heyman's booking influenced pretty much the entire Monday Night War.
Very true.
And then number 5, I will throw a wild card because he worked in so many territories under so mats. I'll say Dutch Mantell.
Ooh, very nice. So, what is the biggest match you've booked in the promotion that you're in?
There's 2 matches that I think you could throw into that equally. One is a men's and one is a women's. In the 13 years that I've been the reins of Squared Circle Pro, we had a match between Sam Adonis, who is a huge name in Mexico, wrestles for the NWA, MLW, the younger brother of Corey Graves of WWE. And he fought Marty the Moth, Martin Casals,
Wow.
formerly of Tough Enough, Lucha Underground. We had that match at SCP. It was amazing, drew a huge house. And then for the women, and I want to say this was 2017 or 2018, I'm trying to remember. But before they both took off, we had Thunder Rosa facing Teresa Serrano, who is now Zoe Stark on Monday Night Raw.
Wow.
Oh,
And we had that at SCP, and that also drew that along with, as a matter of fact, both those matches were on the same card. Drew the largest house we've ever had.
Wow.
wow.
Well, there goes my question.
Wow.
The Marty the Moth, you know, the one that you said earlier. I think, you know, he's one of the most underrated talents that not a lot of people know about. You know what I mean? I think you could put him in any promotion right now that's on TV, and he would just take off.
Marty the Moth is one of those guys that I feel, I have my own personal list of people in the business that I feel like the fact that they don't have a contract with additional promotion, either WWE or AEW or even Impact, if you want to get serious, I feel like it's criminal that he's one of those guys that, I look around the spectrum sometime and see some of the people that get on television. I'm like, how is that person on TV and this guy's not?
Like Austin
So,
Theory. I'm just saying.
I definitely think Martin Casals is one of those people.
Yeah.
So, I was a booker once.
Are you skipping again?
Oh, this
Oh,
is
sorry,
costing you
Big Money.
big, sir.
I'm telling you, that money just throws me off.
This.
So go ahead.
If you can have your promotion anywhere in the country, where would it be?
You know, I think Texas wrestling is special. I mean, there are a lot of hotbeds for wrestling around the country. There's a lot of towns that are like wrestling towns, like Chicago's a wrestling town, New York's a wrestling town, Orlando's a wrestling town, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Memphis. But Texas, in my opinion, has two of the biggest hotbeds in the same state, and that's Dallas and Houston. And on top of that, the West Texas area specifically has such a legacy behind it for wrestling. If you go back to the 60s and 70s, Amarillo and the West Texas area was a mecca for wrestling. Anybody and everybody came through this area. And it was an area that launched so many careers. And that legacy still exists today. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that harkens back to West Texas wrestling, and the crowds are very hot in West Texas. They love their wrestling, and they like it old school. They like the old school storytelling. They like the more realistic type of you wronged my daddy, or you screwed with my family. That's stuff people can like attach to. That's real. It's easier to get a reaction out of crowds in Texas because all you have to do is make them look at the situation and put themselves in it. You can make a connection quicker with crowds in this area. They don't care too much for all the flippy flop fly junk. I have a real problem with modern wrestling, and it's West Texas isn't about that. It's you go to the bigger triplexes. Yeah, if AEW comes in, I'm not going to say people aren't going to pop for the flippy flop stuff and the modern wrestling, because that certain crowd will. But if you go to an indie show in Texas, those are old school fans. Old school fans go to the indie shows, and they want the traditional bad guy versus good guy. They want a reason to care, and they want moments. And they don't look for high spots, and they're not looking for the yay boo and the planches into the crowd and the towers of doom that you see in every freaking match. That's not what they want. They want old school Southern storytelling. So I would never move my promotion out of Texas ever.
Wow. Much respect.
Very good answer.
All right, Mr. Noss, now you may ask your question.
Mr. Skips a lot.
I do skip a lot. At one time, I was a booker at a training school, and I know part of that, when you're a booker, you have to be kind of part counselor too. So do you see that a lot in your promotion?
I have been known to call myself an executive babysitter, in the sense that wrestlers need a lot of attention. They're very needy. And there's a lot of times that I spend a lot of time putting out fires on the side, getting things together to be able to have an event. It's not that way all the time, but and I understand some of it. Because these are people that are out there creating a brand. They're creating that they're responsible for themselves, and you're always going to want to shine. You're always going to want to be on top. You're always going to want to be put in a good position. Sometimes it takes a little work to get people to come along with, look, we're telling a story here. We've got an angle going. This is a program. It's going to go back and forth. You've got to do something. Sometimes it takes a little ego stroking and bat packing to get that done. But I would say not so much a counselor, more of a babysitter.
Yeah, it's interesting because you brought up the crowds needing some realism. When you do the stories. When I did the booking, I had to use the realism with some of the wrestlers, right? So if they didn't want to lose to a certain guy, I had to use the realism with them being like, well, in this situation, it's just like this, and give them something that they can relate to. And they were like, oh, well, then now it makes sense. Now I have no problem losing to this guy because it makes sense why we're doing it.
And I'll give you a good example. I have a girl that wrestles at SCP, and we have a women's championship, but I have a girl who exclusively wrestles guys. And it took a long time for the guys to understand how to utilize her in matches and feel okay when she went over. And I told them all, and I told her, that my philosophy when it comes to women fighting men is you can't have the woman come in and immediately dominate. What you have to do is you have to build the woman up and have her show that she's capable of holding her own with the guys. But more times than not, she's going to get beaten. But it's about getting back up, dusting herself off, and going for it again. That builds the respect. And if you get to the point where she does finally pull a win, it pops the crowd huge because it's what they wanted to see, because they came along on the journey and they wanted to, they garnered the respect. She garnered their respect. It's when you have the women go out like the size, if you have somebody the size of Liv Morgan go over on somebody the size in theory, it doesn't make any sense. Nope. But if you have someone the size of Raquel Rodriguez put down the Miz, that makes all the sense in the world. It's about how it works, how it looks. It has to be plausible. It has to have logical rationale behind it. But it's about building. And that's what I think a lot of indie wrestling, when it comes to intergender matches, there's no realism there. When Tessa Blanchard puts down Brian Cage clean, that buries Brian Cage. And you can never look at a guy the same again. But, again, if Charlotte Flair got into a feud with The Miz, I could see Charlotte going over on him, because she's a legit athlete and Miz is a douchebag. So, because that's their characters. That's the character.
Exactly.
Is Miz completely capable in the ring? Yes, he is. Can he wrestle? Yes. Can he sell? Yes. Can he talk? Yes. He's a complete package, but his character is a douchebag. And therefore, if you get up against an athlete the size of Charlotte Flair with her brain and her power, is it plausible she could win? Of course it is. It's about how you build it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And it's plausible that she could get him to tap out because, you have a built-in storyline there anyway with the figure four. So.
Okay, so my next question is probably near and dear to Mr. Dodge's heart. In your professional opinion, who are your five greatest managers?
My five
Remember,
greatest
Big
managers.
Money, he doesn't know you.
Oh, that's right.
You'll have to excuse me for just a second. I'm trying to plug my phone in because it was about to die. I lose you
you're
guys. Okay. Maybe no.
Where's your other wire?
It's underneath my table. Okay, so five greatest managers. let's talk about this. Okay. No particular order.
Nope.
I know that you would love for me to say Big Money Exchange, but I don't know you, so I'm gonna have to give you an honorable mention. But I think that the 5 greatest managers, in my opinion, I'm gonna put Heyman on the list, but I think that there's a caveat that comes with Heyman. Back in his heyday when he was Paulie dangerously with the phone, I don't know that I would have put him in the top 5 at that point. But now he's kind of the main manager, like of all, like, for the business right now. So I think he deserves to be on the list. Thank you.
Yep.
But I'll put him in there. But the other 4 to me are pretty easy. I will say Jim Cornette, Jimmy Hart, Bobby Heenan, and J.J. Dillon.
Oh,
Ooh,
Very nice.
I like that list.
Big Money.
oh, it is my turn. Great.
I think he's anticipating me skipping him again.
That's what I was waiting for, but time is money, and well, I got plenty. Your top 5 indie tag teams.
Top 5 indie tag teams? Oh, Lord.
Yes, I got him to think.
There are so many out there that I've heard the name or I've seen a little bit of, but I haven't seen a lot. I'll just go with what I know. One of the teams that works for me at SCP, who also travels up into the Colorado area, South Texas area, I'll say Los Carnales is one of the best indie teams that there are out there. I will also throw out the name of I'll say the current SCP Tag Team Champions, Bloodlust, Damian and Lilith Blood, the first husband and wife tag team champions in West Texas.
Oh, wow.
She's the woman I was talking about earlier, by the way. I will say La Migra, El Gringo Loco, and Charlie 50. I will also throw out, there's a team that I used to work with quite a bit. Don't work with them anymore, but doesn't change the fact that they're awesome. I will say Chaos Incorporated. And the final team that I will throw out, I will say the 3 Ring Circus. Monster 9 and Mr. Happy. They work in the New Mexico area, Colorado, Texas.
Wow. I got to start doing my homework then.
That's the second night that's the second time in 2 days that tag team's been mentioned on this podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun. They're a fun team.
So what was your opinion on the Raw general manager? And if you were the booker, then how would you have booked that?
Are you talking about the computer?
Yes.
The anonymous general manager, yes. You
Okay.
forgot that part.
Harder than Vince McMahon.
So I think that was happening at a time when NXT wasn't really what it became, which was kind of like a hotbed for developmental for the company. If NXT had been kind of at that point the way that it was prior to AEW coming on board, I would have used that as an opportunity to bring somebody up and make them important. But quite honestly, I think that the fact that you had the anonymous general manager communicating over a computer, I might have used that opportunity to bring somebody from the past, somebody that was recognizable to the viewers, but someone they absolutely would not expect because they were not somebody who was currently already on the show. Maybe I would have used that as an opportunity to maybe bring in Kevin Sullivan, or somebody that was recognizable from WCW, that people knew, that fans knew was in a position of backstage power, something like that. I think having it be somebody that was already part of the show was just kind of lame and predictable, but I thought the gimmick itself was kind of lame and predictable. However, with the way technology is today, if they were to do something like that today, they could pass it off as AI, and that might be something interesting.
True.
Very cool.
I like that answer.
All right, so have you ever had the opportunity to work with Gino I Told You So Rivera?
Gino is my Squared Circle Pro Heck Yeah Radio iPay-per-view champion. He holds a belt with us, and yes, I've worked with Gino for about the last 3 years. I've known of him long before that, but I've just gotten to work with him in the last few years. Standout athlete, amazing character, self-promoter like I've never seen anybody self-promote in my life.
Yes.
Merch hound, the dude takes up half the merch area for himself. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Runs his own school and has tons of trainees. I mean, off the ropes is a huge deal. It's so much so that I've made that part of his gimmick at SCP. The stable that he runs with is essentially all of his dudes. So, I mean, it just gives them an opportunity to get, OTR out there.
Outstanding.
But no, I like Gino a lot. He's easy to work with. He's very easy to work. The character and the person are two completely different things. He is a performer. He is a born showman, but the guy on the side is very personable, super nice, smart as a whip. I mean, I can tell you right now, I think that one day, I don't know when it's going to happen, because I'm sure at some point Gino's going to get signed. Somebody's going to grab him and he's going to end up being on major television on a regular basis. But at some point down the line, I could see Gino being a booker for a major promotion or a head of creative, because that dude is super, super intelligent and he knows the business.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And he just picked up his 16th world championship.
See, dude, the guy hit somebody on the indie scene needs to book him versus Matt Cardona, winner take all. Because Matt Cardona has a suitcase full of belts and Gino has a suitcase full of belts. They need to put all those belts out on the table and have a winner take all.
That's big money.
Just put the briefcase up above and do like a ladder match between those two.
I don't think there's a trestle. I don't think there's a strong enough trestle to hold a briefcase full of both of their belts.
No,
it's too much.
No, because Cardona's got a bunch too. I mean,
he's got 3 suitcases full of belts that he travels with. 3 suitcases. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Why isn't he signed with us?
All right, Mr. Money, your turn.
Oh boy, you guys throw the questions that I want to ask, then you tell them, and then I get lost.
That's what we do best.
God.
How do you think we make the big money?
Well,
You watch it, forehead.
Somehow he always forgets that I have a face.
okay, let him ask his question,
learning
forehead.
that. Still learning that. My question to you, good sir, is your favorite 5 any promotion female wrestlers today.
Female?
Female.
Oh, okay. I feel like they're all going to come out of WWE for me. Because if I look at AEW, no, that's not true. There's one. There's one in AEW that I feel like she still has a ways to go to be like major superstar level, but I feel like her potential to be a superstar, of everybody in AEW, there's only one person that I see on that roster who hasn't already been there that I think could be a WrestleMania main eventer, and I think that's Jade Cargill. Because she looks like $1 million. And as long as she can stay healthy and continue to learn the inner workings of psychology and the business, she is one that I could see being a main event at WrestleMania. Because she looks like a star. She freaking looks like a star. And she's an athlete, which is not a coincidence. The athletic ones are the ones that always end up rising to the top. Look, 2 of the people that I would put on my list are Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair. And both of them were athletes first. One of them had ties to the business, one didn't, but they were both athletes before they got to developmental. And I think that's a huge reason why those people are in the place that they're in. So Jade Cargill, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair. If I had to put 2 more in there, I would put 2 names that I do feel are the future of the business. It'd be easy for me to pick Becky Lynch because, she's Becky. But Becky, I think she's already there. She's already a star. And I honestly think that some of these people are already starting to pass Becky Lynch by. Because I think that Becky Lynch has gone as far as she's going to go. And the other 2 would be Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. Those 2, and you'll notice if you look at all 5 of the people I picked, they're all big girls. They're stout. They're athletes. They all get in the ring, and I could believe that they are having a fight. Whereas so many of the girls, I think, are just out there flipping and flying around and doing little kicks, and that's fine. I get, women's wrestling is popular right now. I created a women's division at SCP purposely because there's an audience to serve, and I have no problem having them there. I have 3 women's matches per show, which is more than any non-women's only wrestling on indie that you're ever going to see. I dare you to go find another indie promotion out there that puts 3 women's matches on one card if they're not already a women's promotion. But I do that because I'm serious about pushing them and getting them out there. But I think that when you've got size and an athletic look, it's more believable, it's more tangible for fans to look at those girls and believe them than the smaller ones who are just doing a bunch of flips.
I agree. All right.
Those 5.
Another one that I think falls into that category with like Charlotte and Raquel is Natalya, just because I don't know why they haven't given her like more of a focal point.
I think that Natalya is her own worst enemy. And I say that because I feel like she I think she is more of a sports entertainer than she is an athlete. She comes from a wrestling background, but she's so much the wrestling girl more than the believable fighter. I think that if she took more of a approach of a Shayna Baszler or a Ronda Rousey, I think that people would give her more of an opportunity. Matter of fact, I was advocating for a while. I was telling a lot of the people that I talked to back when they were all on SmackDown together. I thought a really good angle would have been because Shayna was teaming with Natalia for a little bit, and Ronda started trying to get in between them. And they had just moved Raquel Rodriguez to SmackDown. I thought that what might be fun is instead of Ronda getting in between Natalia and Shayna, maybe Natalia takes the lead, brings Ronda in, and says, hey, you guys are from the MMA, but I'm a graduate of the dungeon. So maybe I should take you guys up to Canada and we should do something in the dungeon, find a way to work Raquel Rodriguez in there as their monster, put those 4 girls together and form a female heart foundation.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Very
Wow.
nice.
Wow.
Because that would have utilized Natalia's veteran status, utilized her legacy as a heart, and then taken 2 people that we know are legit badasses in Shayna and Ronda and put all that together with Raquel in the background learning from everybody. That's a recipe for success.
Yes.
And like you were saying earlier, that would have played right into the personal side too, because of how close Ronda and Natalia are.
Exactly.
And all
People
4
could
of
have
them
gotten
are
behind that. People could have gotten behind that.
Oh,
So we noticed doing our research that you're a radio show host also.
Heck Yeah Radio is our production company with SCP, and it's www.heckyeahradio.com. It's a 24-hour multi-genre music channel, but there's also several shows that are on Heck Yeah Radio. One of them is Ringside with Wrestling Rick and Mr. NL. It has been on hiatus the last few weeks, but it is supposed to relaunch coming up here pretty. I don't know that we're going to do one tomorrow. Normally it's on Sunday afternoon when we tape, and then it plays all day on Monday. I don't know if we're going to do one tomorrow or if we're going to wait until after Tornado Slam to come back and do one. But generally we do, it's about 2 to 3 hours. We recap all the wrestling of the week. We talk about a few hot topics. We do some fantasy booking, and then we just kind of discuss. But we've been doing that for about 7 years.
Wow.
Wow. So are there skills, from that you translated over to doing the booking and stuff?
I was a booker before I was ever a radio show host. I felt more comfortable doing the radio show host gig because I've had a microphone in my hand at wrestling shows for so long. I started my booking career in October of 2006. And so the whole time I've been a booker at wrestling shows, I've always been an on-camera GM or executive or CEO type character. And I felt that it was best to do that because I'm booking the show, I'm writing the show. I already know the stories, so I can just tell the stories and facilitate those and not have to give somebody else a script. You know what I'm saying? So I've always felt comfortable with the microphone. And when I met TJ Mundell, who is the head of Heck Yeah Radio, and we talked about doing this show, I felt more comfortable doing it because I was already comfortable talking.
Nice.
That makes perfect sense.
It does.
All right, well, I'll just do an easy one for you. What are your future goals in wrestling?
booking big
Well,
money exchange.
I've pretty much put all of my chips in a SCP. I've been doing SCP now. We are 13 years in, or about to start our 13th year. I booked 2 promotions prior to SCP, but didn't have the longevity that SCP has had. And I feel like we've gotten to a place with our production and our presentation that I feel like we are very close to being in a position where I'd be comfortable trying to get regional television. And if we could get to that point where we could actually sell ads, then I think things could really take a nice turn. Because our product has been described by several people as very world-class championship wrestling from the 80s meets mid to late 90s ECW, in the sense that we're very gritty, we're very subculture, we're very underground, we're not a family-friendly product. We wrestle out of a bar scene, and it's very small and intimate. I like small building, big crowd, because the energy in the building, when there's a lot of people in a small space, the energy is at a peak, and I like that. I am not a fan of shows that have 1,500 seat building and pull 400 people. I hate all that space. So I like having the smaller building with the big crowd. I like that we're not family friendly, because it's kind of a niche thing right now. There's so much family friendly on the indie scene that I feel like those shows kind of bleed together sometimes. Whereas we stand out because we are not afraid to have blood. We are not afraid of profanity. We're not afraid of sexual situations. We're not afraid of harder edged characters. But at the same time, our storytelling is very old school. And we take a Southern wrestling approach to the storytelling, which is basically storyline first, crowd connection second, and then I could give a crap what you do in the ring. Because nobody remembers the moves. I don't believe, even to this day, if you look at the discourse online, when people are taught WWE or AEW, they're talking about the stories, they're talking about the characters and the booking of such. How many times do you see conversations online, whether it's positive or negative? How many times are they talking about a move sequence or the content of a match? They're not. They're talking about stories, characters, moments, booking. That's what they're talking about. And that's what adult product is easier to get those things over, because those people are going to the show expecting to see the harder edge storytelling. They don't care about all the flips. They don't care. I get guys in the back all the time that are like, well, let's do this move and let's do this move. And I'm like, are you insane? Nobody out there is going to remember that. They don't care. They care about the moment. Or do you have a moment match that you're going to be able to deliver to them from a character aspect? Because that's what they're going to walk away with. So I want SCP to grow, but I don't want to sell out what we are. I don't want to get bigger than we have to be because it's what everybody else is doing. I could stay small forever, and I would be fine with that, as long as we continue to pull a crowd and everybody's happy and I feel fulfilled as a booker and the wrestlers are having a good time. I'm okay with staying small and independent. I don't need to be this giant corporate thing. But more than anything, what I just want to do is to make sure that when people leave my show, that they are excited for the next one.
And don't forget making that money too. Wow. Why aren't you in California teaching these scumbags out here, the promoters that don't know jack, obviously not more than you?
I
You should
have
come down there and teach them.
Well, look, One of the things I think is a death knell for the business, especially on the indie scene, there are so many promoters out there who are also workers on the show. And when I say worker, I mean they're wrestlers, they're in the ring, they're the champion. That when you are wrestling and holding the pencil, you have, whether you believe it or not, you have an agenda. And I think more than not, you overshadow the people on your show. It's very easy to do that and not even intend to do it. That's one of the reasons why, even though I trained and I've had some matches, the matches I've had is because I put myself in a position as a side character to have my ass handed to me by another character in order to further a story. But it's never to get me over, because I don't care about that. I'm a booker first and foremost. I'm writing the story. I'm telling the story. I'm developing the characters. I don't have time to worry about my pop. It's ridiculous. But I think on the indie scene, that's more than not, the creative is also in the ring. And I think that's a bad mix. So, I feel like I try to go around, especially, the indie scene, especially West Texas. Try to get out as much as I can, go to other promotions, offer to help out when I can, go backstage, help, if I need to age in a match or, something, I'll try to help as much as I can. But what I see more of than not are people who aren't prepared, things that are run by the seat of their pants. And, there's no format, there's no production meeting, there's no, we're just writing matches on a whiteboard, and here we're just go out in the show. What are you doing? I don't get that. So I don't know. I'm happy with what I'm doing. So I think and I'm scared of California. I don't want to go to California. I can tell you right now, my luck. Look, I'm telling you, my luck. I'm telling you that this is the absolute God's honest truth. My luck. The second my plane touches down or I cross a border into California, that's when the big one's going to hit and the whole thing's going to fall in the ocean. So I can't. I'm done. I don't want to do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So, have you ever been to the world famous Sportatorium in Dallas?
I never got to go before they tore it down. That is one of my I so wish I had done that. I had an opportunity to go one time before they shut it down, and I didn't get I didn't make it. But I have walked on the ground where it used to be. I hate that I didn't get to go because that was even though the building was a total trash dump and everybody talks about how awful it was a mecca. That was a destination. So much good crap happened in the Sportatorium. I mean, God Almighty, so much good stuff. So many good angles and characters and stories got told. It's one of my biggest regrets in the business was not making it to a show at the Sportatorium.
I mean, just think of the stars that came out of there, like Stone
Oh
Cold
no,
Steve
dude.
Austin.
Yeah.
That some of my favorite television class championship wrestling era, 85, 86, 87. I loved World Class. World Class was amazing. Because then look at what they did. They were the first promotion to get cameras in the ring. They were the first promotion where everybody on the show had entrance music. They were the first promotion to have moving, updated graphics on the screen for the wrestlers. I mean, so much of their production value that started in World Class was taken over and utilized by every major promotion afterwards. World Class was a huge innovator. Matter of fact, I'm sure you've heard the story that there was a point, I believe, it was maybe 82, 83, maybe 84, but it was before David died, where several promoters were clamoring for World Class to go national and start touring. And Fritz von Erich wouldn't do it. He wouldn't leave Dallas because he just didn't believe that it was going to be worth anything. And I think they had one or two shows. They had a show in Boston, and I think they went to Israel for a show, but the crowds were rabid for it because KTVT, Channel 11 out of Dallas was like a superstation, was like TBS. You could get it on cable all over the country. So people knew what World Class was. Think about it like this. 82, 83, 84, prior to David Von Erich passing away, the Freebird Von Erich war being as hot as it was, if World Class had actually decided to go national and tour the country and beat Vince McMahon to the punch for the national expansion, do you know how different the wrestling business would be today?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But Fritz didn't want to leave. And I get that. You're comfortable in your territory. I get it. He's an old school territory guy. But, if you got to go, you got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what is your thought on gimmick matches, and what are some of the gimmick matches you have booked for your promotion?
Gimmick matches are only matches that should be done few and far between. They need to be utilized to be the deciding factors of long-range feuds. Like the steel cage, for instance. Back in the day when I was growing up and I was really good at wrestling, you didn't see a steel cage match but maybe once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see them almost every other week. The fact that matches like Hell in a Cell and TLC became their own freaking pay-per-view, where instead of feuds building to Hell in a Cell, we just know we're going to have two and we got to fit people into them. That's ridiculous. Back when TNA used to do their lead lockdown, where every freaking match on the show was in the freaking lockdown cage. Are you kidding me? Like that?
Yeah,
why?
killed.
Why? Why is that happening? I feel like, one of my best gimmick matches of all time, one of the ones I love more than anything else, and pretty much every promotion did one at one point, but they only did the one. And that was in Florida, it was referred to as, it was Kevin Sullivan and where they did the blindfolds. They put hoods on their face.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But WWF did it with Jake Roberts and Rick Martel at WrestleMania 7. And it was the blindfold match where they put the hoods on. And the whole match was built around Jake Roberts using the crowd to point to find Rick Martel. And they would cheer they would cheer and it would get louder. And the second that he hit him with the finger, and he would be in his sights, they would be roaring, and he would move towards Martel, and Martel would move out of the way. So the whole match was Jake trying to get this guy just for one DDT, because that's all anyone wanted to see. They just wanted to see Rick Martel get DDT'd. So you had an entire match with almost zero bumps, one major move built around a man pointing at another man. How freaking smart and awesome is that? So easy, and yet we never saw another one.
Yep.
And people remember that to this day. But if we saw it every other week, who would give a crap?
Yep.
Yeah.
So like for me, when I do gimmicks, SCP has 6 shows a year. We only do 6 every other month. And on our September show every year, we have a cage match. It's the main event is always a cage. And it's basically reserved for the biggest feud of that year. They know that somebody's going in the cage, but we don't know which feud is going to end in the cage. And then on our November show, we have a Extreme Royal Rumble where they're allowed to bring, it's like the Royal Rumble, but they're allowed to bring weapons. It's come as you are. And so it's like an ECW style Royal Rumble that we call the Gauntlet Armageddon. And we only do it once a year. And because we do that particular match, I do not do any other battle royal that year, because I don't want one battle royal on one show and the gauntlet on another, because I don't want it to compete. I don't want people to be like, oh, well, I don't care about this match because I just saw one here.
Right.
So I try, other than that, usually, I guess a gimmick we utilize probably more than we should is the element of a street fight. Like, you can always do different kinds of street fights, which is basically just anything goes. So you can call it no holds barred, you can call it last man standing, you call it Texas death. It's all a street fight. It's all the same thing. So we could probably back off on that a little bit at times, but those are really the biggest matches, the biggest gimmicks we use.
Cool.
Yeah,
We used
I
a
agree with
barefoot thumbtack match once.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Ow.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Not
we did a barefoot thumbtack match once that I was very uncomfortable watching.
Oh, I bet.
Ouch.
And the
agree
funny
with
thing
the
about it
battle
is
royal
the guy who did it, he was like, I don't even feel it. He's like, it's not even a big deal.
Even after the match?
Yeah, he's like, it just doesn't. He's like, my feet are too calloused. I don't feel it. I'm like, okay, well, I just know that when you step in them, I feel it and I hate it. So
You're gonna do a torch run this year?
I'm kind of holding my feet right now as we talk about this.
Okay.
No.
And I agree with you on the Battle Royal, because where we live in the Pacific Northwest, it seems like every time there's a new promotion or something down here, there's like a Battle Royal.
Yep.
It's like, really? Like, you can't come up with anything else to give yourself another, your first champion.
Yeah.
yeah. See, now I like the idea. Okay, we had a thing that we used to do. We don't do it anymore, but we did it for about 10 years. And we called it human chess. And what the concept of human chess was, we start off with 16 guys like a tournament. And we start off with a battle royal. And the first 8 that were eliminated were completely out. And the final, it was 17. We did 17 people. And the reason we did it, I'll explain why. It was as a reason why. The first 8 were out, and that left 9. So then the next 8 that came out would then face each other in the order in which they were eliminated in singles matches. And the winner of the Battle Royal would go immediately to the finals. So then we'd take that 8 and we might break them into, we might do 4-on-4 and then get it down to like 2-on-2. But one way or the other, we'd get to 2 guys in the end that would go to face the Battle Royal winner. So we start the night with 17 and we end with 3. And then the winner would be the human chess champion for that year. And that way we utilized the Battle Royal in a fashion that it wasn't like a regular Battle Royal, because we're only losing part of the field. And that, I felt, made the Battle Royal seem a little different, but at the same time, it made it more important. And so we did that for a while, but you can only do that so many times, that gimmick, before it starts to get a little old. So we capped it at 10 and we moved on.
That is a very awesome way to do
That's very interesting.
to do a Battle
Different
Royal.
way, too. Different way.
I like tournaments, but sometimes you look at the bracket on a tournament and it's pretty obvious who's going to the finals based on how people are pushed. Like,
Yeah.
look at TV.
Yeah.
Like, look at the TV this last week. You had that world title that WWE is going to start doing at Night of Champions. The second we saw those two sides of those two triples, who didn't think it was going to be Seth and AJ? Like,
Right.
really? Like, I mean, seriously. Like, the second I saw it, I was like, that's going to be Seth and AJ. Because
It would make
otherwise,
sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
like, why would it be anybody else? It just,
Yep.
I look at the field and you make an argument for, well, this guy might have looked good with the title, or this guy might look good with the title. But when you look at literally look at the guy, what was there, 12 total? Yeah, 3, 12.
Yeah.
12 total. Seth and AJ made the most sense. And
did.
sure enough, there it is, Seth and AJ. So that's why, like, sometimes when it comes to tournament, if I'm going to do a tournament, I'm going to have somebody win it that you wouldn't even expect.
That would build up big. Yeah.
I'm going to have to run inside just real quick, guys. I don't want to lose you. I've only got 3, so just quick second.
No problem.
Is there a plug down here?
Pretty. It's pretty.
Most people smell flowers. Big money smells money.
Have you seen my beautiful cup?
Yes.
Worth more than my
All right,
wife's
guys.
ring.
I'm sorry about that. I'm back.
It's
No
okay.
problem. The only thing I didn't understand about the tournament for the World Heavyweight Championship was why they put SmackDown on it. If Triple H was going to put such an emphasis on the Raw side of it being for that championship,
Yep.
that confused me.
Also thought that was a little suspect when I heard it. The only thing that I could come up with in my mind was I thought one of two things. Either they're going to have somebody from SmackDown win it, and then they're going to move them over to Raw, or they're going to have or they're going to do some kind of a swerve where the person that wins it stays on SmackDown, and then Raw's just kind of out of it till Money in the Bank, which I still feel like Cody's going to win. And then when he beats Roman, he'd bring that belt over to Raw. It was, that's me trying to like grasp for straws to make sense of like why they're doing it. So I don't know. I was as dumbfounded when they made the announcement as everybody else, because I was like, if you'd have made that announcement and done the tournament before the draft, and then because maybe, to ensure that there's a champion on both rosters, then I get it. But it's like the fact that we did a draft first and now we're including the other brand in that was weird.
It throws it off. Yeah.
That felt like a Vince thing. That felt like Triple H throwing the old man a bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what I think. I
you.
think that's what it felt like to me.
See, when they brought the belt in, I was assuming like, okay, Roman's going to get both of those titles he's carrying, and it's just going to be that one, and he could go to either brand. But that's what I was thinking.
I still feel like, and I've always felt this way. I feel like there should be one world champion for the men, one world champion for the women, one set of tag champions for the men, one set of tag champions for the women, and they should float between all brands. If you're going to have something brand specific, you use the secondary titles like the Intercontinental in the United States, and you could do a women's Intercontinental and a women's United States if that's what you really want to do. But your secondary belts should be your brand specific belts. Your world champions should float, because I don't understand. I get it that Raw and SmackDown are two different shows. I get it, but it's still under the same company banner. Why does a company need two world champions? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yep.
And I
That
think
makes
that
sense.
people who are advocates of it, I think the people that are advocates of that, because I see it all the time, there should be 2 champions. They only say that because for the longest time since they instituted the draft post WCW and ECW, it was just the way it always was. And there's a lot of people in today's wrestling fans, a lot of the modern fans who grew up during Cena era of wrestling where we had 2 world champions because we had 2 brands, and that's just the way it's always been. And so for them it's comfortable. And I get that. That makes sense. I just don't think it makes sense for the money. Because if you're got house shows, your world champion should be a draw on your house shows. And if there's only one world champion and the only time you can really see him is on house shows and major events, and if you do see him on TV once in a blue moon, he might have a match, but usually it's going to be an interview situation. That makes the champion and the championship itself more prestigious, and therefore you can draw more money with it. I don't know why that's so hard for people to get.
So why aren't you working for WWE then?
Because I'd rather eat dirt.
They need the smarts of you, sir. I'm sorry.
Look,
They need the smarts.
I have had two online interviews or over the phone interviews with WWE when I applied for creative position. And both times I was told that because I did not have Hollywood TV experience from a writing capacity, that I was not eligible, because they are not looking for wrestling fans. They are looking for TV, sitcom, movie level writing. That's what they're looking for. And I get why they're doing that. They're trying to, Vince McMahon said it best in that movie. He's making movies. Okay. That's what they do. What does WWE do better than any other promotion on the planet? Their promotional videos. They're historical videos. When they put together video packages, there's no promotion on the planet that does it like WWE does it. And that's because they are saturated with professional writers and TV people. So I get why they need that. But that's what I got told. And quite, truthfully, I work much better, when I put together a show. I have my rough draft of the show. I line it all out. And then I spend 2 or 3 weeks talking to different people in my promotion who don't really have an agenda, just running the show by them to let me know, does it all sound like it flows? Is there anything wonky? Is there something you don't understand? I take all the feedback, I redo everything, and I go through maybe 5 or 6 drafts of a show before we actually have our event. I don't know that I could sit in a room with 12 other people tossing ideas around, and then each one of us gets 2 ideas on a piece of paper that gets into the hands of Michael Hayes, who then crosses out half of them, hands it to Bruce Pritchard, who crosses out the other half, and then it gets to Vince McMahon, who writes his own show anyway. What's the point?
Yeah.
I can't work like that. So I think it's probably best that I don't work for them. I think I'd be miserable.
You deserve it, though, to be honest. The way I've been hearing you, you're big money. You're smart.
Quite honestly, and I appreciate that. That's a very nice thing to say. But honestly, even though I have a bigger problem with their overall product, I'm much less of an AEW fan than a lot of people. I have a very big problem with a lot of their product and how it's printed. I don't honestly rather write for them than any promotion on the planet, because I feel like there's some place that I could actually help
boost it. Yeah.
But I again, I guess it depends on how much coke Tony's done that day. I don't know. Because come on, you've watched him on TV. You've seen his eyes jutting around. You're going to tell me he's not tweaking? Of course he is. Something's going on. Something's going on. Something's going.
I'm
Oh,
scared of his
interesting.
eyes.
Interesting. I don't know if you guys saw this. I thought this was really funny. And I tried to find it on Twitter after I looked at it once, but it disappeared. So they may have deleted the tweet. But somebody mentioned, and they had way too much time on their hands the other day. Somebody put, they actually calculated the number of minutes that Tony Khan has spent on his own television shows this year making major announcements. And then underneath it, they put the list of people from the roster who have had less TV time than Tony. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
It's sad but true.
It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
I'm sorry. Who does an announcement just to announce you're going to make another announcement next week? You couldn't have done that online?
Well, there's only been 2 people in the world who've ever done that. One of them we see currently, Tony Khan. The other one is Dixie Carter.
Yep.
So when you're in the
great.
same company with Dixie, when you're mentioned in the same breath as Dixie Carter, the outlook is not good.
No, I would have to agree with that.
Wow.
God bless them. I love that there's another place for people to go work. I love that.
Yeah.
It's essential that AEW exists.
Yeah.
My worry is it took 20 years after the Monday Night Wars for a major cable outlet to throw millions of dollars at a wrestling promotion. Look how hard TNA had to fight to stay on TV. Look at how hard Ring of Honor had to fight to stay on TV. You know, you can see that. My worry is that all the things that AEW does wrong, and there's a lot of them, is going to end up backfiring. And if AEW goes down, how long will it be before somebody else is able to step up? And that's the part that I worry about.
Yeah.
So very good.
They're too busy trying to be a super indie on major television and not trying to cater to the casual fan. That's why I believe, they started with 1.4 million and now they're happy to get 800,000. And, it's been almost 5 years. Why aren't they drawing 1 million people every week? There's a problem.
True.
Because they're only booking to a niche crowd.
And they haven't booked Big
See,
Money Exchange, I'm just saying. Throwing out there.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And the thing too is he has too big of a roster, right? Like you're paying all these guys so all this money, but half of them don't even get you.
And he doesn't know what to do with all of them.
But that's because he's a fan. He's a new booker. He's a fan with a lot of money. And when somebody comes available, it's like buying a new toy. He's collecting human action figures. That's what he's doing. He's collecting human action figures. And every week he gets his together and he decides what show he's going to have. And most of the stuff he does is haphazard, has no continuity, and makes no sense.
Does anybody remember that exploding ring match?
Oh, that was sad. That was sad. That was sad to watch. Sad. I felt bad for them. I felt bad for them because I know that earlier that day they did it and it worked. And then they did it for TV and it just was sparklers. It was so sad. That was so sad. But who I felt the worst for? I felt the worst for Eddie Kingston.
Yeah.
Because Eddie Kingston had a great role in that match. He was running out there to save his best friend. And he threw his body on top of Jon Moxley. And then all we saw was a couple of pops and some fireworks and some sparklers. And Eddie Kingston was laying there like he was dead. Because he didn't know. He didn't see what we saw. But he was laying there dead. And I wish that a referee had been like, Eddie, it didn't work. Because it was sad. It was bad. It was really bad. I felt awful.
It was bad.
It was bad.
I've seen old videos of matches and I'm like,
Yeah.
Paris. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely one for the ages. That is an entire page on Wrestle Crap. That's where that's going to go.
Yep.
Tony
Very
Khan, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
It was bad.
It was
Oh.
They have to know. They have to know. They
Yeah.
have to know how bad
Oh
it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's do one more question, and
Make it
I'll let-
big money worth it.
so I think I'm going to let Nathan do the Eugene. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll do that one. So, do you think that a character like Eugene would work in today's wrestling?
No. It barely worked when they had it. Here's the problem. It's not even so much that it's making light of disabled people. That to me is the other side of it. The reason that the character doesn't work is because the business is so exposed to this point with social media that the guy playing the character cannot hide.
Yep.
And you know that Nick Dinsmore is not a special needs person. So it comes off, not only does it come off as immediately fake, it comes off in mildly bad taste.
Yep.
And it just doesn't work. If you went back to the 70s and you had a character like that, that person would never be allowed to leave their home because they would be protecting the business.
True.
You go back to 1996 when things were already out of the bag because McMahon had already done the thing in Atlantic City for WrestleMania 4 where he gave away the results of the entire show to prove that he didn't have to pay taxes on it because it was entertainment. But you go back to 96 when on TV, the business was still pretending that it was real. If you go back to 96 when 95, 96 actually, ECW, when they did the Sandman was blinded angle.
Oh, yep.
And he got the cigarette flicked in his eye.
Yeah.
He stayed in his house for 6 months. His wife answered the door. His wife got the mail. She went to the store. Sandman never left his home. And if he did, he was wearing the blindfolds. He was wearing the So when he showed up in the EC in bandages, Tommy drew to have his final match with Tommy Cairo and dedicate his career to the Sandman and all that stuff. When Sandman tore off the bandages and revealed that he could see, the crowd was in awe. They gasped. And this was a smart crowd. ECW was a dirt sheet crowd. They even knew the stuff, but he fooled them because he dedicated his life in that moment to telling that story. But you can't do that now because now he would have a Facebook and he would have a Twitter and he would be talking as Jim Fullington to his friends while he was being the Sandman on the show. And you can't, that's why for me, I know that I have a social media presence because I'm the promoter of a show and I have to be available for talent to contact me. That's why I don't have a character. Rick Elsie is my name. It's my birth name. And I use my real name so that I don't have to have a working page and a shoot page because that's what everybody has now. They have their worker, they have their shoot page and work page. But here's the thing. If you have both a shoot page and a work page, how am I supposed to believe your work character? Because I see your shoot character all the time.
Yeah.
You can't skirt the issue and walk both lines. If you're going to be real and you want people to believe, you've got to stay off the real. You have to sell the work. The Gene character barely worked then because we all knew Nick Dinsmore was not special needs because he was in OVW as Nick Dinsmore. And then he
Yep.
comes up to WWE as Eugene, and it's like, wait a second.
Way
I watched
different character.
OVW last week. He wasn't special needs.
Yeah.
But today it would be worse because of the social justice stuff. It would be worse today.
Yep.
Well, with that being said, we appreciate you for coming on tonight.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure meeting
Oh,
you.
absolutely.
by the way.
Is there anything you before we let you go?
Absolutely.
Is there anything you'd like to promote?
Yes. Tornado Slam, Squared Circle Pros Tornado Slam is May 20th, live from Jake's Back Room in Lubbock, Texas. If you can't be there live, and by the way, it's $10 live to get through the door. If you can't be there live, then you can go on to Facebook and the Heck Yeah Radio Facebook at 5:30 for our pre-show, where we will have a free match on that show. And then at 6 o'clock at www.heckyeahradio.com, the show will be streaming on that channel as well, and you'll be able to watch it there.
Well, heck yeah.
I highly recommend that you watch. And here's the thing, I'll reach out to the three of you. I'll tell you, if you've never watched a Squared Circle Pro event, I highly recommend go to heckyeahradio.com on that day, 6 o'clock, watch the show, hit me up on my Facebook. I love feedback. Tell me what you saw. If good, bad, in between, I don't care. If you think the show sucked, tell me it sucked. I want to hear everything because I do better if I don't know what I did wrong.
Exactly. Yep.
Exactly.
I would love to get all of your feedback. It is free to view on heckyeahradio.com. You won't have to pay for that.
Awesome.
We'll be
Check that out.
talking.
There's
by
a
the
little
way.
button
We'll
on the
talk.
page. If you go to www.heckyeahradio.com, there is a bar in the middle of the page that says SCP pay-per-view. And you click
Okay.
that, and it will let you in and give you access. And like I said, there's a pre-show on Facebook Live, 5:30, that will include one match. And then the other show starts on the website, 6 o'clock, and it runs till 10 p.m.
Very
Wow.
cool.
Awesome.
All
I'm
righty.
looking forward to that.
I think we've got 10 matches on this show. 3 are girls. 4 title bouts.
Wow.
A Lubbock street fight. I told you before, it's our favorite gimmick match. But yeah, it's going to be a good show. It's going to be a good show.
Looking forward to watching that.
Looking forward to it.
I'd
All
love
right.
I'd love to get the feedback, guys.
We will definitely watch it and give you feedback.
You're
Yeah.
on.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, anytime
Again,
you guys want to talk wrestling, I'm more than happy to talk wrestling. I love it.
All right,
Absolutely.
sounds good.
We'll be in contact for another interview later on down the road.
Yes,
Until
sir.
Awesome.
then, thank you so much. Watch his show next weekend. It's going to be good. Until
Big
then,
money.
we'll see you until then. This is From the Chair with the Big Money Exchange. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.